Еще громче, громче, не слышно. I'm very happy to see everybody. From my side, I would like to apologize for several delays. We could make it to Dnieper a little bit earlier, but we are here finally, and I would like to present to you the new CEO of Privatbank, who was chosen through very complicated, professional, and transparent selection. His name is Peter Krumhansel, and definitely we'll ask him to present himself with a few words, why it's important. Last time I was here a little bit more than 1 year ago, and I presented also the chief of the bank, Mr. Schlapak. And this was not an easy time. It was not clear. Everybody believed that the bank would develop successfully, but there were a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of risks. And I believe that both Alexander Schlapak and Halina Chlapachuk, they made the maximum they could to stabilize the bank, irrespective of all the complicated conditions, stabilize it, and now the issue how this bank will develop. And we finally, just now, finalized the strategy development for the overall state banking sector that includes 4 banks at the moment, and we've also renewed the strategy for Privatbank. And for the implementation of this strategy, we have invited the new CEO. The job for him is now to develop the bank according to this strategy, that Privatbank could remain and even strengthen its leading position, and finally the state could effectively sell it and attract finances to the budget to compensate the expenses for the nationalization. In other words, a lot must be done. The staff is looking forward to their new CEO, and I'm sure this will be a joint work, both of the managers team and of the employees. They have the joint future. Together they will build a successful bank that will hold leading positions in Ukraine. From my side, we will support maximum both Privatbank and other state-owned banks, but our function of the Ministry of the Finances, we as shareholders, we don't interfere with management. We participate in some key decisions like strategy, maybe some strategic goals, but the rest of it goes to this professional team who will bring the bank forward. Once again, I would like to congratulate you in Dnieper, and I wish you success. I would like to invite to have a word to Mr. Peter Krumhansel. Can you share with us your first ideas, first thoughts? Good afternoon, everybody. Those of you who have come to today's press conference. First of all, I would like to thank the Ministry of Finances, who found time in his tough schedule and made it to Dnieper today. And I would like to say thank you for his warm words and support. I would like to mention that Privatbank is a unique bank not only for Ukraine, but for Europe as well. And from the point of view of banking technologies, it used to be and it remains much better than its competition. And my job from the first day to make sure that we keep this bank as one of the innovative banks on the market in Europe. Privatbank must be first in services, in all kinds of services it gives to its clients, and I want that the clients of the bank, and this is about 20 million Ukrainians, receive the best banking service. As of today, the state has provided Privatbank with necessary level of capitalization, and this job for the board and for the supervisory board to get back the invested funds. Of course, I have just started my job, but I believe that once I have studied tons of documents and the processes which I would need, I would need to fine-tune the new business model of the bank and gradually introduce it. There are a number of issues which I need to do. First of all, this is the audit of all processes to know how the bank works and how we can make it even better. Also to build the system of risk management, which we should make from zero. There are issues that pertain to operational activity of the bank, and there are many other issues which we must discuss. For instance, issues related to security. Of course, this is not the issue only for the bank. This is the issue for all banks and corporations in Ukraine and elsewhere in the world. I think that all these directions require a lot of working, and I'm very happy that the bank as of today has a lot of highly qualified colleagues and staff, and I'm sure that we will be able to, within this year, make this bank the best not only for Ukraine, but we will make it the best in Europe, and I'm sure about it. Thank you very much. I would like to also give the word to our other colleague with some short summary of the work of the bank, of the strategy. Good evening to everybody. We are very happy to see everybody. 2 days ago I received this summary, the summary of banking nominations. Privatbank received several of them. The bank with lots of cards. I said I would like to receive the bank which would be the most profitable bank. This is how it should be. To summarize the year, really, today we have 206 billions of toxic assets, and we as a state and we as a bank have to continue working with this. We have created some assets which we should return to the society, to the budget. This is the main important job. If we summarize the year, the 2017 we ended with forming reserves of 90%. However, January it has a different history. Our supervisory board is independent. We have approved the budget for 2018, so our forecast and our budget is meant with the surplus of 4 billion. So already In January we have half a billion profit, so we are very confident looking into the future of 2018, what we have done and what we haven't done. I'm very sure that the staff of Privatbank and the number of staff that we have in Privatbank, it can have better surety that the bank will continue its development. At the beginning of the year, we had some doubts, some concerns. There would be some changes that would create some massive misunderstanding, like staff cuts or decrease in salaries. But if you look at the banking statistics, and the salaries of Privatbank are definitely higher than elsewhere in the banking sector. So this was done correctly by the supervisory board that supported this decision, and the management board. The first job was to keep the staff, and this job was done well. The quality, to remain the quality of serving our clients. At the beginning of the year, there were a lot of processes that the clients were massively leaving the bank. As of today, the trajectory of our movement has been recovered. Clients are coming back, and if we look at the number of cash and amounts of cash that Privatbank has worked on via banking machines, it's 1.3 trillion hryvnia. It's about our cash cash office staff, banking machines. So we have done 3 times the turnover of cash elsewhere in Ukraine. So we will have definitely the basis to report to the bank owners that we are very successful. This is the capital that this is the capital that the society has taken from other society needs and aimed at supporting Privatbank. So our first job is to bring back this capital to the state budget via all the possible legal means. Let's move to some questions. So the first question is to Peter. First of all, how do you see the policy of separation of the spheres of influence of the CEO versus the supervisory board? This is number one. And secondly, do you have your own team? Would you invite new people? Do you want to see new people in your team? The first question relates to the management board, to the supervisory board. The supervisory board is responsible for the strategy, for the basic results, and returning assets to the state. That's where we will work together. The supervisory board, once again, it's a strategy. That what concerns the management board, it's the operational activity. We will develop processes. We will resolve issues with liquidity of passives or actives. This is the personnel issues, this is risk management, and so on. This is number one. What concerns the team, I would say that I do not exclude that I would bring my own colleagues who I have known for some time, the specialists who have worked in this sphere for some time, because there are some serious jobs, serious issues that relate to Privatbank, and these issues must be resolved by specialists of the world level. But for me, it's not important if there are people who are working in the bank, if they're Ukrainians or if they're foreigners. What's important for me, that they have experience, that they do their job well. I would like to add What concerns, this is a good question, the separation of authority between the supervisory board, the management board, that also relates the separation of authority between the owners and the management. And the key role is played by the supervisory board, because its main function is to make sure that the bank is managed without political influence, that it works exclusively on commercial ideas. Why I'm emphasizing this? Because in reality, this is not just a pilot. We're not piloting anything. It's just one of the first examples of how it should work, the new model of corporate development. It should be apolitical through professional supervisory boards, and the key focus on receiving commercial results. Because the state, if it owns the company, it does it for receiving profit. And that should concern the limited number of companies. The rest must be privatized. The state is not, to begin with, an effective owner for thousands of companies. It should own a short list of very strategic enterprises, very successful. I'm looking at the experience of the independent supervisory board of Privatbank. This is the example for the rest of the state-owned sector, and also the example for the banking institutions that are in the state. Two banks, for instance, don't yet have the supervisory boards, and this is not normal. This has to be speeded up as fast as possible. There is the law in Verkhovna Rada that should bring in the changes on formation of supervisory boards at state-owned banks. Once this law is adopted, and we are trying to adopt it as fast as possible, we would receive strong professional supervisory boards throughout the whole banking sector, and then the whole banking sector would work effectively. One more comment regarding this stuff. The bank, any bank, and including Privatbank, especially, this is technologies, this is people. And my first impression 1 year ago, I saw very strong staff, strong employees who were aimed at developing the bank. And it's important that we have managed to have supported these people, keeping these people see the future, and they must build the successful bank in a way that they should receive high salaries. This is very logical, and this is how it should be. The state company can't have people who work for it who don't receive good remuneration for their work, because from these people depends the quality and success of these state companies, state banks. And I'm sure this policy will stay in place. And regarding the team, this is our position of the shareholder. I'm, as the Minister of Finance, the new management manager of the board, chairperson of the board. Of course, he should formulate his team. He has full mandate, his responsibility to develop the bank and form the team as he deems necessary. Are you talking about Privatbank? In principle, we have some key figures that the state owns some 55% of the banking sector. This is not, in principle, this is a forced situation in which we found ourselves when we were forced to nationalize Privatbank, to save it, to save 20 million clients of this bank and the stability of the whole banking system. Today our job is to effectively decrease the share of the state in the state banking sector, and throughout the next 1 or 2 weeks we will consider the new strategy at the Cabinet of Ministers, which will foresee exiting for the state from the capital of Privatbank. So we are planning to give back Privatbank to some private sector. It's difficult to give about the price, to give ideas about the price. The market will formulate the price. It will depend on which price will be available from the market at the point where we are give Privatbank bank to private hands. Whether it will work effectively, the management team, how it implements the strategy, this is number one. Secondly, it will depend on the quality of the regulation of the banking sector, and thirdly, of course, from the market conditions. There are 5 years, and I believe this will give us the possibility to receive the most successful, most interesting result. Look, this issue is not really towards myself, because I'm the representative of the owners of the bank. Of course, there are certain inquiries on the side of the National Bank of Ukraine, and I'm definite that they were made within the law. Regarding the bank will continue to act within the law. Nobody will, of course, go outside of the law. This is the issue of the trust of the banking system, the trust of the independence of mass media. I'm sure that we're talking about the norms of law on the side of the National Bank of Ukraine. You know, there are two points of the bank within the law of the banking activity in Ukraine. Of course, the bank can receive some inquiries, and this can be off-site and on-site supervision. The law has stipulated the ways to check the banks. At the moment, we have both on-site and off-site supervision check of the bank, including on Cypriot branch. We have to finish a big case. As I said, 206 billion of toxic loans that we have to consider. Some investigation cannot be public at that moment, but in the interests of its clients, keeping the banking secrets as prescribed by the law, as of today we are doing the transfer of information regarding the clients only when there is a direct request according to the clients. So it's not given to third parties. It can be only within the limits set by the institution that have requested this information. This is the communication between only National Bank of Ukraine and Privatbank. No information is leaking to third parties. Okay, I can tell you, regarding this letter, the National Bank of Ukraine has the right to order such a check. We made some requests with some first name, last name. The bank has to do its work professionally. We've requested this from the National Bank of Ukraine, and it will continue its check. As at the moment, Privatbank has proved to National Bank of Ukraine that it will keep the information and transfer the information only within the limits of the law prescribed by the law of Ukraine on banking activity. Privatbank received huge billions of losses. Was this before it was nationalized, or even after it was nationalized? Okay, the minister cannot talk about the operational activity of the bank. I would like to say the following. Definitely, at the moment of nationalization, it wouldn't happen in any case. It was not logical to take the bank out of the market. It was done only via its difficult condition to save the bank, to nationalize the bank, and of course these losses were understood. But in the future, as was already mentioned by Galina, the bank will be profitable, and the new strategy foresees that the bank will develop only via profits, and at the moment of its sales, the state would be able to compensate a huge share of the spent money for nationalization. That's number one. Secondly, regarding the issue, should the bank or should the state keep non-profitable assets? It doesn't matter. The state should not own, and this is the position of the Cabinet of Ministers, the state should not be the owner. We should minimize our role in economy. Privatbank, the question is why we're not selling it at the moment, because we believe that the conditions are not ideal, not optimal. Via the professional management, we should add value in order that the state could receive the maximum profit. I would like also to give my explanation why we have the minus result. In 2017 we had to continue the work on evaluation of the fair value of the assets that the state acquired in 2016. Big assets, big fueling stations like also Bukovel. So we have done the evaluation of fair value, fair evaluation, and the issue of the evaluation of assets brought the losses in 2017. The reserves that the bank should have formulated for these assets, if we consider those assets, we would have the plus. So the capital is now sufficient. It's not the best year, but we have the capital of 26 billion at the moment that allows us to be very sure in serving our clients. We will not live to see that the bank is not transparent. All necessary reserves were formed. Now everything is according to international standards, and everybody can now look at the financial state of the bank to see how effectively the management is ruling the bank. That's why follow the success of Privatbank. Your work for monetization of subsidies has been found unsatisfactory. Why was this evaluated in this way? The Ministry of Finances is now implementing a series of important initiatives. The easiest would be to do nothing. You do nothing and the country doesn't change. We have initiated the monetization of subsidies because we could not believe that billions of grivna go to God knows where. And every year we had the same situation repeating. We have the bills for billions of subsidies, which we can't check was the gas consumed in such volumes or not. That's why we initiated the monetization of subsidies, and as of January 1st this process began. It's very complicated, quite complicated. Both us and the Prime Minister has supported this. Of course we have to make corrections, because every step we have to look at the situation and correct our actions. In order to successfully monetize the subsidies, so we know where each grivna goes from the state budget. When there are some problems come up, we look for solutions. Unfortunately, not everybody is ready to accept this. Someone wants just to, it's fashionable here, especially before the elections, to criticize somebody. Some, of course, people suffer from us stepping on their private interests, because now we are moving into direct relationship with those who consume gas, not via the complicated schemes where we used to lose 30–40%. That's why I take it very quietly. The government is working to make sure that the monetization should be successful, and the next step will be the monetization of subsidies all the way through the end consumers, in order to avoid any kind of misuses, and I'm sure that we will be supported by the parliamentaries. I will come back. We're working on necessary changes in legislation without too much noise, too much shouting. We will bring them up to the nearest meetings of the Cabinet of Ministers, and believe me, the process is not easy. There will be more changes ahead of us, but without it, to achieve the effective use of state money is not possible. We will be very persistent in implementing this further. Next week the technical mission of IMF will come, and definitely I will be meeting with them, and also my other colleagues, the members of the government. There will be meetings in the administration of the president. It is a very standard practice to evaluate the stage of implementation of the program, and they find the possibility to regulate the issues which are not regulated yet. For instance, together with the mission, there will be some more experts who will give recommendations towards the law on creating the anti-corruption court. In other words, this is the time where this mission is important, that we move further in fruitful cooperation with IMF. Thank you so much, dear Mr. Minister. We would like to ask another big press conference with Peter. Give us 100 days, give us the time to work, to get to know the business, and then we will be asking you more questions.